Welcome to the University of Alberta Comcast on citing and quoting. We want you to do it right the first time, so you can avoid plagiarizing and just concentrate on your ideas in your writing. Let's get started. Our objective for this module is for you to learn about the rules of citation, as well as when to quote in a paper and the proper way to quote. For instance, by using signal phrases and adding the important reference information, like who you're quoting and where your reader can find the information you have quoted. Citing information you have read lets the reader know that it isn't your original idea, but does give your ideas credibility if you can support them from experts in the field. Above all, citing work lets your readers know that you have nothing to hide. You didn't make up the information, and they can check it for themselves. In this way, your writing gains transparency and therefore increased credibility. You must make sure that you have quoted the exact words from the original text. That is actually what the quotation marks tell the reader, that you have copied word for word what the original author has said. You also have to make sure that you have chosen words from the original work that represents the ideas of the author. For instance, you can't drop a "not" from a text when you copy it, or you will misconstrue the intent of the original author. Failure to do these will result in a misquote, and although it isn't plagiarism, it's not good academic writing, and your professor will be bound to pick it up, and it will result in a lower mark for you. Here's a quote that doesn't represent the original. Susie doesn't like spaghetti is the original, but if I were to quote it, Susie likes spaghetti, then I'm misconstruing the original intent of the author, and therefore this is a misquote. When to quote. Use a quote only when it enhances or proves your argument. Use a quote only when you understand what it means. Don't use a quote just because it sounds brilliant, but you have no idea what it actually means. Don't use too many quotes in your paper. Professors are on to people who fill up their paper with other people's words because they don't understand the topic of the paper. Your professor wants to see what you have read and understood of the topic in your paper to the point that you can make your own argument and support it with facts and expert opinion. I am often asked by students how many quotes per paragraph they should use. I tell them I can't answer them just with a number. Instead, I tell them to look at their argument, question what kind of support they need to convince a skeptical reader, and then look at each potential quote and ask, does it come from a good source, like a peer-reviewed journal article? Does it support my thesis? And is it well written? By that I mean, is the quote succinct, grammatically correct, and does it use the same keywords you have been using? Citation means letting your reader know where to find the original information that you have quoted, summarized, or paraphrased. For that matter, any material that is not your own, like pictures, graphs, or videos, needs to be cited. There is general agreement by researchers that an in-text citation, that means in the body of your writing itself, should include the author's names and the year it is published. Precise information, like a statistic or a quote, has to have a page number or paragraph number so your reader can follow it up easily in the original text. The other information, like the name of the article from which you quoted, should be found in your reference list. There are many different styles of citation and bibliographies, and each field of study favors one over another. APA stands for the American Psychological Association, and that style is very popular and what we'll be using in this Comcast. But there are many other styles, like the MLA or Modern Language Association style, that you will surely use when writing an English paper. Business often uses Chicago style. When your professor assigns a paper, he or she will tell you what style to use. They are very similar, so don't be intimidated about having to learn a new style. Look up the way to write a particular style on the university library site. Here's a link but you can find the web page on style by looking up References on the main page of the library. Signal phrases, like the one here, Lewis, 2013, stated, signals to your reader that the following words are not yours, but are from literature that you have read and are about to quote. Including a signal phrase is just good writing, like using transitional phrases like however or in conclusion. If you don't use a signal phrase and just drop a quote into your writing, it is actually called a dropped quote, and having a dropped quote may make your writing seem to be choppy instead of smooth and seamless. So to improve your writing style, use signal phrases. This is an example of a typical quote. It starts with a signal phrase, then the quote, and then the page number. Oh, and here's a reminder. If you have copy and pasted your quote into your paper, make sure that you change the font to the font that you have used in your paper. Let's go over the components of a good quote. First, use a signal phrase, including the year that it was published. If you found your quote on a web page that has no date, then you would use ND in the brackets. Then the quote itself, and then the page or paragraph number. When you are researching, try to download the PDF so you can just look at the page number. If you are using literature that doesn't have page numbers, you will have to count what paragraph your quote is in. Microsoft Word has a great little reference tool where you can just fill in the citation material as you go, and it will generate a bibliography for you. It is a great way to keep track of your references, so you won't forget to include them and chance being charged with plagiarism because you forgot to use quotation marks and cite the material. When you are quoting, pay special attention to where the punctuation goes, the period and the quotation marks. These differ in different styles. These details are really important. Here's our bibliography, or what APA calls a reference list. Here you'll find all the outside sources that we used in examples. Thanks for listening and watching this Comcast on quotations. There are 2 more in this series.